who is in marketing and public relations at the UDA party, as well as Nimo Sheikh, who is a youth leader. Ladies and gentlemen, many, many thanks for staying on with us. Now, Nimo, let me begin with you when it comes to the issues of the finance bill. And the government sort of showed some consensus, so to speak, when it amended certain controversial clauses in the finance bill. And these will be debated now in the Committee of the Whole House. That was a 16% VAT on bread, issues to do with the bank to money, or mobile money transfer charges, bank to money, tax on financial services, essentially. Those were dropped. But the Gen Z revolution remained undeterred. So let's discuss the specific issues that are pushing Gen Z to call for a total recall of this bill. The Committee of the Whole House will be discussing clause by clause. What are the issues specifically that you want to see discussed?
Okay, thank you very much. To first say that the amendment that was done by the government was a diversion tactic from the main goal. Because the government knew that they cannot just come up with without a backup plan. They knew this bill is absurd, and therefore, of course, lazima wange to divert na mambo kama ya mkate na nini, so that they can look like they have amended the bill and they have really considered what Kenyans are fighting for or are concerned about. But the real issues here are most of the sanitary pads in the supermarket shelves are imported. Okay? Clause 63, KRA, we already pay taxes to KRA. Why should they be given access to our data? We have the right to privacy. Most importantly is that the finance bill for 2023, we have not seen anything at all that tangible that they can say we have done A, B, C, D. So why should we pass the finance bill for 2024, yet we have nothing at hand for 2023? These are the hefty questions and reasons why we are rejecting this bill. Yeah.
Muhia, what are the issues for you? And we'll be discussing the issue of sanitary pads. What are the issues for you that you would like to see addressed? What are the pain points from where you sit?
For me, I first think many issues have been addressed, and the problem with this financial bill is that, Michelle, if you have that copy of the finance bill, it's not suitable for everyone to read. It's not everyone who can translate it. And to be honest, you've even seen members of parliament having other people to help them translate that bill. First, I need to say that as the government come up with such things, they need to first consider how people understand these things. They need to invest in civic education, telling people and educating people about these things, and not just educating people with the things that they prefer. Let's talk about something like the bread VAT. We all know that that was put there just to trigger people and bring that attention so that it can divert people from scrutinizing that financial bill. And I believe the real issues is that there's a lot of misappropriation of money when it comes to the finance bill. There's no way you can tell us that you're putting money, you're setting money aside that is private. No one should know. It's confidential. What does that confidential mean? Really, let's be honest. You can't tell us that you're setting money for a spouse. That spouse wasn't elected. They are not in public service. You understand? These are the things that we are fighting. We are not rejecting that people are supposed to be taxed, but we want to see if at all there is a problem of money in Kenya. It's as simple as, why can't we cut off these things? And simple things, they start even with the parliamentarians. I haven't seen any clause there that talks about members of parliament being taxed more. They are one of the most highest earning people in this country. Yet you want to go to that teacher who only earns 15,000. That police officer who only earns 18,000. Remember, right now we have a housing levy. That has never worked. That was in last year's financial bill. Tell me today that one house, show me one house that has been completed. Show me one mwananchi who's living in that house free. I remember last year there was a conversation, early this year, sorry, there was a conversation of some houses have been completed. And then there were those rumors going around that someone is supposed to give 300,000 in order to get this house. It doesn't make sense at all. I'm not sure if that was true, but it doesn't make sense at all. People have no confidence that these houses, they'll get them for free. The government hasn't come out to set that record and say these houses will be for free. For me, in my salary, I'm deducted that housing levy. I'm not sure if I'll ever get that house. So we need also to go back to the last financial bill, understand the things that worked, those that were failed, we scrap them off, we start over again. And that's why we are saying these financial bills should be rejected, taken back to Parliament, consider those things. I know in every organization, even where people work nowadays, there are KPIs, there are deliverables. What were the deliverables for the last year's financial bill? Where have they gotten with it? Those are the things that we need to, and they bring us to the issue of accountability. Right now, we are not confident with the government, with their accountability and their usage of money. Okay,
so let's begin with those issues. And it's good that we have Benjamin Ondalo here. Remember, Benjamin is in marketing and public relations in the UDA party. So let's pick up from those issues just raised here, Benjamin, because the protests have exposed some sort of gap in prioritization in the budget-making process, as has been raised here. But to be fair, reform is never a popularity contest. You know, change comes with resistance. So we've been told to live within our means. We're making hard and not popular decisions. But Kenyans are seeing, listening. Kenyans can hear the words, but they cannot see the talk being walked.
Michelle, first off, it's important for us to appreciate the fact that tax is not fun to pay. It's not a sweet thing to have some money deducted from what you normally work to earn, being deducted towards government as tax. However, tax is an obligation for any patriot in any country. And it is tax that builds a country. It is tax that develops the infrastructural capacity of any country. My friend here mentioned that we have not seen any implementation of last year's bill, the 2022-2023 bill being actualized. It's important for us to look at the bill in totality, in entirety. Let's not be segmentive in our analysis of that bill. I just mentioned that last year alone, in the education sector, the government was able to employ 54,000 teachers. 54,000, the highest any government has ever employed since the history of our country. These teachers now are on PNP basis. Remember, Michelle, in our country at the moment, the problem of unemployment is systemic and entrenched in us because the ratio of graduates vis-a-vis the ratio of retirees and people working out of employment is not balanced. Right. We have got more people graduating than the number of people who are retiring. And therefore, be as it may, we will be unable to balance that ratio for as long as we are not able to look at how else can we create employment for our people. And that brings me to what my colleague mentioned here about the element of the houses, the housing levy. The housing levy was not imposed. The idea behind the housing levy was not the house in itself. The idea behind the housing levy, based on what our party leader, President William Ruto, was looking at as a vision, was one, job creation. Because we are having houses being brought up in every constituency in our country, around 200 units in each constituency. And that in itself creates jobs for masons, for plumbers, for quantity surveyors, for suppliers, even for the mamagideri who goes to sell the food to the people working at the site. That was the first vision of the housing levy. Number two, housing levy was brought about, this project of affordable housing was brought about to mitigate land fragmentation. My brother and sisters, our country is an agricultural country. Agriculture is our backbone. And yet, personally, where I come from, my dad is polygamous. My grandfather was polygamous. He had 9 sons. And in his land, his inherited land, he only had 8 acres of land. He shared it equally amongst his sons. My dad took almost an acre of land. He was polygamous. My dad has 3 sons.
All right.
The 3 of us have to share 1 acre.
We get where this is going. It does come in greatly with land fragmentation. But let's focus on the issue of the Finance Bill of 2024.
Perfect.
And the concerns being raised by Kenyans go beyond the concessions made by the Kenya Kwanza government. Let's talk about the issue of sanitary pads, for example.
Good.
It was a concession to remove the eco-levy on sanitary pads produced and manufactured locally. However, the eco-levy remains imposed on final products or imported sanitary pads and diapers. Now, this is a win essentially to Kenya's manufacturing sector. It is. You know, it enables manufacturers within the Kenyan space to then get more demand and ramp up their supply. However, as Kenyans are pushing for a better tomorrow, they also want a better today. The fight against period poverty cannot be backstepped. Absolutely. When it comes to prioritization, this is where Kenyans want to hear how the government prioritizes them. What is the plan of the Kenya Kwanza government to cushion women from period poverty in the period that Kenya is still ramping up its manufacturing sector on pads and diapers, which will not take 1, 2, 3 years, likely 5 to 10 years. What's the plan there?
We already have companies that in Kenya that manufacture and produce sanitary towels and diapers. For instance, we have Nipnap, which is one of locally manufactured diapers for our children.
Right.
Look here. We have 1.9 million Kenyans who are employed and are on taxable bracket. 1.9 people are the ones who are able to pay tax. The government is able to deduct tax in government taxable bracket. And yet these 1.9 people are supporting the 54 million Kenyans who are unemployed. Therefore, the government is looking at other ways upon which we can increase our tax base. We can expand our tax base by enhancing our manufacturing ability. By zero rating locally manufactured pads, it means the locally manufactured sanitary towels and diapers and pads can compete at the same level with whatever it is we manufacture. When you go to the shelf to buy a sanitary towel or a diaper for your child, and here is one from China selling, say, maybe 100 shillings, and one made in Kenya also at 100 shillings, you would be very proud to buy the Kenyan manufactured one, because in doing so, you are not only keeping your Gen Z colleague who works in that manufacturing company on duty, but also promoting what is ours. Go to some countries, for example, go to China.
Will this be implementable from the end of the month?
It's already up and running. We have local manufacturing industries that produce this stuff. So the government is just saying, we want to incentivize these manufacturing houses so that they produce more and they are able to compete with the market globally and even locally in our regional markets.
The question is, will there be a gap after the finance bill at whatever point, say, is passed with the eco-levy on imported products? Will there be a gap for 1, 2, 3 months where Kenyan women cannot afford sanitary pads? Well, there will be a higher cost on sanitary pads.
Michelle, I can assure Kenyans that there will be no higher cost. There is no gap because Kenya does not exist in a vacuum. These companies have been in operation. However, why they have been suppressed is because the products that we have been importing from outside countries looked like they were cheaper. They look like they are better, okay? Because our production costs were so high. So we are saying we want to lower our production costs as a country so that once our production costs are low, we will produce at a low cost, and at the end of the day, the end product competes the same product that was imported. And by increasing tax on the imported product, that makes it a little bit higher than what we have produced. We end up consuming what we produce, and we end up promoting what we do, so that when we employ people in these manufacturing companies, we keep more people on duty, we give people jobs to continue working in our companies.
Nimo, this has been quite controversial, especially for women. What do you make of his response?
I feel like for them to impose more taxes on imported sanitary pads, that means there will be no fair competition within the market. And I'm not trying to say that we should not buy Kenyan products and all that, but people have differences. This is not the direction where we should be heading as women in this country. We have fought and we are still fighting for sex in exchange for sanitary pads and many other things. Now, where the government should be heading to is there should be free sanitary pads in totality within the country, because the percentage of poor people is higher than the middle class and the rich. So that means not everybody can even afford that locally made sanitary pads. So this is a conversation where we were supposed to come together as women and, you know, bring this kind of conversations within women leaders, so that we can have a way where young girls and women in poverty can get who cannot afford sanitary pads can get free sanitary pads in this country. So I've seen Senator Gloria. She has been fighting for free sanitary pads and all that, free women and all that, and the period campaign. But then when we are now taxing sanitary pads, she voted yes to the bill. So that's why we said initially that we have lost confidence in half of these members of parliament, because, and we are not, I'm not talking like this because I'm against the government. I'm not becoming radical because I'm not in support of the government. We need to highlight these things because we have seen corruption cases in parliament, even in the previous regime when Uhuru was the president. Members were getting bribes in the toilet for passing a sugar bill. So what makes it any more different now that we are passing a bill that their own constituents have told them not to vote for? I have seen members of parliament say, I vote yes on behalf of my constituents, and the constituents have not agreed to the bill. I have seen members who say, I support this bill for the love of my president. Why are you bringing love in parliament?
All right.
Your work is to legislate, to represent.
Muhir, what are your thoughts on this conversation?
First, I think the government is misinformed in terms of, have we met demand of sanitary towels in the country? As you can see, over the years, we've had this crisis that we don't have enough sanitary towels in the country. And now you're talking about increasing taxes on the imports, of which they are the ones which are many in the market, and then promoting local. Tell me, which structures do you have to promote this local industry? You've mentioned one. Do you think one industry will be able to feed the whole country with these things? Because already we have a crisis, yet the imports are not that high. What about when you increase that VAT and now people can't afford them anymore? So I think before the government comes up with such conclusions, they need to come up with mitigations first. They need to look at the state of the nation at that point. Because the moment you start talking about that we have all this time, and I believe the problem with the Kenya Kwanza administration and also the previous governments is that they believe they have so much time at their hands. You need to know that you only have 5 years. Right now it's 2 years. What has Kenya Kwanza government done? What has it done? The moment you have that in your mind, you'll come up with short, deliverable things and goals that can easily be realized. Let's say, perhaps, hypothetically speaking, in the next 5 years, Ruto won't be in the power anymore. And then we have another president who doesn't stand for the housing levy. That thing will be scrapped off, and our money won't come back to our pockets, by the way. So that is something that the government needs to start looking at and realizing that we only have a short term to turn things around. We don't have 10 years. We don't have 7 years.
Right.
You only have 5 years to turn things around.
All right. And then, so when you hear such views from the youth, Kennedy, and a lot of these conversations are now moving from, aside from the finance bill, are now moving towards accountability, and now moving towards sealing corruption loopholes. And the Gen Z revolution is asking, what did you do with the finance bill of 2023? Because this is the second year in a row that the Kenya Kwanza government has introduced a controversial, a very unpopular finance bill, so to speak, where the government spokesperson there asked, essentially say, this is not the finance bill, the first finance bill that Kenyans have had, and so why are we having this kind of protests? where is this conversation on accountability, largely championed now by this Gen Z revolution, likely to take us?
Michelle, before whatever my counterpart has spoken about gets swallowed up by my next point, it's important for us to be sincere with Kenyans because we are on national television. It's important that we take seriously what our young people out there are agitating for and stick true to the facts. The fact is we have unemployment as a problem in our country.
Right.
This government is proposing and saying, look here, part of the reason why we have unemployment is because on the sanitary towel aspect, we are importing. We are consuming more imported sanitary towels than we are doing locally manufactured sanitary towels. Therefore, when we buy that sanitary towel manufactured in China, China produces it at zero cost in their country. They're able to produce excess, and that is why some of it finds its way to our market. When you buy that Chinese manufactured sanitary towel, who are you keeping on job? It is that person working in the Chinese company in China, not that Kenyan in Kenya, okay? And therefore, the government is saying, look here, is it possible for us, therefore, to incentivize our manufacturing companies to produce more at zero cost so that we compete with that market, that product from the Chinese market, and therefore we keep more people in employment in our manufacturing companies? That is a good thing. Okay?
Can I ask him something? Can I ask you something?
Sure, sure, sure.
What is the government doing to make sure that there are these industries, like right now we are talking about sanitary towels, what is the government doing to make sure that these companies are coming up? And this I mean by being deliberate. Don't just give me those whatever sideshows that you usually announce. Tell me there is an industry being constructed by Kamau or Odhiambo at Kisumu for sanitary towels as we speak. Tell me that. Those are the deliverables you're talking about.
Companies and stakeholders been engaged and involved. The plan is
as I said before, Michelle, probably maybe he didn't get me. I said I gave a certain example of a company that produces nip-nap.
That's just one.
That's one. It's Kenyan. We have several others. If you give me time, I can get you some more. However, the deliberate effort the government is doing to incentivize and make sure that now more locally companies can produce those sanitary towels, as you say, is first of all by bringing a legislation in Parliament that will be a law that any company in Kenya producing this stuff will produce it at zero cost. You will not pay tax.
No, I believe
that is the first incentive.
I believe first the government has a problem because first they started by saying we are a bottom-up government. But the way that you're dealing with things, it's trickle down. There's no way you can tell me you're starting with the legislation before you meant things on the ground.
And perhaps just as we move on then to the issue of accountability, maybe my final question would be, the concern is that some of the proposals in this bill will deepen social inequalities. Now, job creation is important, no doubt. The youth need employment. But as we try to create employment through manufacturing pads and diapers locally, what are the mitigation measures to cushion those completely unable to get sanitary pads? That's the question. What are the mitigation measures? Was it thought about, or is it an afterthought?
There's nothing that happens in our country that is an afterthought. Everything that happens is something that is planned and budgeted for, and therefore my colleague here had mentioned that we need to see people receiving more free sanitary towels, okay, to mitigate and basically take care of that period of vulnerability amongst our girls, amongst our ladies in Kenya. The government is dedicated to make sure that our girls who are vulnerable during that time of the month are taken care of.
How?
Okay, just a minute, stop interrupting me, please. So you see, by first of all, by zero rating the production of these sanitary towels, we will produce more because now we have nothing keeping us, or rather nothing tying us, that we must pay taxes. So we'll produce more as a country, okay?
All right.
Yeah?
We get you. But clearly the stakeholders have not been involved, have they, Kennedy?
You can't say that in entirety, because I want to believe public participation has been taking place, and I want to believe stakeholders have been involved.
Where is the evidence?
Okay, we must take a break. We'd like to hear any stakeholders involved, or, you know, they can speak to us. Hashtag is Newton. But Nimo, before we take a break, very briefly, take us to break.
Yes, I was asking, I want to ask my colleague here, now that international companies, in short, will be paying taxes, might it be the reason why we are having more companies closed down in Kenya and invest in Tanzania and other countries? Might it be the reason why we are hearing rumors that most of the most successful companies that were doing business in Kenya are now shutting down?
All right, we'll be discussing that question after this break. This is New Dawn. We are discussing the unrelenting Gen Z revolution who currently are protesting the finance bill of 2024. The hashtag is New Dawn. To speak to us, we'll be sampling your thoughts and comments after this break.
Everybody has got to learn how to put in some effort and some energy in order to make their dreams come to pass. Manage your resources, especially in this day when we are all out there